So now I open the floor for anyone with a question. Don't be shy, and do wave your hand because it's a little difficult to see. Yes, please, thank you. If you could state who you are, that would be helpful. Melanie.
Good morning. It's Melanie Messer from the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission in Canada. Question for Committee 4. You mentioned that 109 and 111 will be updated. Can you speak to what we might see in those updates? Because those are fairly recent documents.
We are just starting the process, but as you are aware of, we had a task group 84, who made a review about the situation in Fukushima just after the accident and over the following months, and draw a set of lessons, more than a dozen of recommendations made to the main commission and to the committees. And we extract from the list of these recommendations a set, those who are relevant for Committee 4, and we are going to build on that. But furthermore, as I mentioned, we have been involved in the dialogue on the rehabilitation of living conditions in the Fukushima area, and we have also a lot of lessons learned during this dialogue, and we will try to combine that. The objective is not to revise completely these reports, because we think that the general perspective given by the two reports have been consolidated in a way by what happened in Fukushima. These two documents were embarking the lessons of Chernobyl, but we think that these documents need to be updated to take on board some aspects that were not embarked so far, and to tune some aspects. But generally speaking, there will be no basic changes about the key recommendations and the key advice that were given in publication 109 and 111. But there are other lessons that will be not embarked by Committee 4 related to the work of Committee 1, the work of Committee 2, and we hope that in the future they will be taken on board also by the Commission. Thank you.
It's not.
Go ahead, yes.
The mic wasn't on. Thank you for the answer. So just, this is a detail, but those documents, you said they won't be completely revised. So are they, we won't be expecting new documents per se, just a revision of 109 and 111?
No, there will be a revision 109 and 111. We are not going to produce with new numbers. We will keep the same numbers, but there will be updated documents taking into account the lessons of Fukushima.
Perfect, thanks.
I think there was a question over here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is François Bauchy from Switzerland, and I had a question for Committee 1 and 5, and I was wondering if a link had been done from the observation that many birds around Chernobyl developed cataract, and cataract is an important subject for workers, as we know, and because we observe it in birds, maybe there could be a link between those two committees, and what is your position about this?
The answer, at the moment, there is not a discussion between Committee 1 and Committee 5 in that, as regard to that particular subject. We are going through the process of developing enhanced phantoms so that we can do a good assessment of dose. Because the challenge in the radio ecology area is relating effects and accurate dosimetry. And so that's really the biggest challenge for us at this point. Bill?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I think I would like you to come this afternoon to the session when we talk about effects of the lens of the eye and things like that, and ask some of the people, the experts, very question, because they have obviously thought about that a lot more than I have, but it's something we need to be aware of. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Ibrahim Ismail from Hamad Medical Corporation, Qatar. My question is regarding the diagnostic reference level for the pediatric, for digital. What is the status of the ICRB for that one, for the dose reference level for pediatric? Thank you.
We have few published paper about diagnostic reference levels in pediatrics until now. We have some provisional values in Europe, but just now has been launched a new contract in Europe with the DG Energy and the Unit of Radiation Protection to start a study during 2 years, and the tender has been or will be the European Society of Radiology together with other European organizations, and is expected to have some European values probably in a couple of years. And it is expected also that the new coming document from the ICRP, when we do recommendations about the use of diagnostic reference levels in diagnostic interventional radiology and nuclear medicine, we also address what could be the approaches in this area of work, because the difficulty is that we have a relevant change in the size of the patient, and we should probably to address the best approach, and not only the initial approach to take some groups of age, to take into account also the size of the patients. But we should recognize that we have the methodology, we have the recommendations, but probably in the practice we have still less data for pediatrics. But we expect to have, at least in Europe, in a couple of years.
Question here in the center.
Khalid Al-Utaibi from Saudi Arabia. I really appreciate the work done by all the subgroups we're talking about, but especially I'm concentrate on the group number 5. I would like to see more work to be done on norm cases, and especially some effect of radiation on the biota and ecology of semi-closed sea, like we have the Gulf here. Because all the work we have been through, it's only for open seas and area. But for semi-closed sea, it will be different story. So I would like to see more work this. Thank you very much.
I would say thank you very much as well. We are quite interested in being able to expand both within Committee 5 and also support the research of others in this particular area. Committee 5 is developing the architecture, but as I mentioned, our statement of knowledge gaps has spurred other organizations to step in and to do data collection and data analysis. I'm very fortunate in that I have many students and that I can set them particular tasks to work on in support of some of the ICRP activities. And I would encourage, if you have students or colleagues that would like to do this research, we would absolutely love to see it. Thank you.
Further questions? Please, also in the center. I think you were first, and then you'll be next.
Okay, Åsa Wiklund from the Swedish Radiation Protection Authority. I have a question that relates to radiation protection, but it's mainly about ICRP as an organization. And it's for Claire and Chris, and it's about this project you are now embarking in when it comes to funding. And I believe that there are gaps and finance is necessary, but I wonder, how do you tackle, or how will you tackle sorry, the possible problem of being financed or sponsored by different organizations and maintaining the ICRP independence and the credibility that is huge in the radiation protection world?
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Of course, ICRP, we have a long history and tradition. And we know very well that part of our fundraising campaigns means that we are not going to compromise our independence. We will not be asking people to give us money. We will not be commissioning work from certain organisations or industries. But I think as we move on and evolve here in the 21st century, it is now up to ICRP to look further afield for areas of funding and finance. And it does not mean to say that if a nuclear power organisation or other industries actually give ICRP money in support, this money can be used, as I say, to strengthen the system through research, through encouraging young scholars, etc. And so what we want to strike is an actual balance between the two, of having enough funds to achieve what we want, but of course to maintain our independence. It's not going to be that easy, but we certainly don't want to close doors to potential funding opportunities that will of course benefit ICRP, but again the wider radiological protection community by not potentially engaging with such organisations and companies.
Yes, in the centre, please.
Yeah, I'm Abdullah Al-Ali from Health Authority of Abu Dhabi. My question is the same as of what was asked before. If there was an effect found by Committee 5 and a certain animal at a certain level of radiation, would it be considered by the first and second and third committees?
Do you want to try?
That's a good question. I think that harmonization of this effects data needs to be done with our committees. And interestingly, I see Committee 5 has done in the development of voxel phantoms and in the aggregation of effects data a lot of overlap with the other committees. And I think in the long run, we do need to integrate better what we're doing.
I think an alternative way of looking at that is that a lot of us that study basic effects of radiation use animal models. Fish are widely used, obviously mice and rats, dogs, non-human primates, alligators, pigs. A whole spectrum of animals have been irradiated in dose response, dose rates. So now harmonization is the right word. We need to put that together with the environmental type of exposures. And I think that will happen.
Yeah.
And I would like to add to what Bill said. The distinction for a lot of the studies that we have seen in the past have been laboratory exposures used for advancing our understanding for human systems. And what we really need to focus on, as Bill had mentioned, are the environmental exposures for advancing our understanding of effects on those organisms in their natural setting. And unfortunately, there is not a tremendous body of data yet that is available to us. And this is an area where additional research is needed.
Thank you. There's a question in the front. Microphone's coming.
Thank you. Khalid Al-Isa from Saudi Arabia. I have two questions, if I may. The first one about the heavy ion therapy, which starts becoming a modality. I'm not sure how ICRP will address this issue. Should we wait for the new data from the practice or the other way around, or both? And the second question is about combined risk. We are talking about radiological. What about if we have radiological and chemical toxicity to humans? What is the combined biological effect in that regard? Also, if we have different situations, radiological plus other abnormal situations like evacuation, stress, which could be, increase the tolerance or decrease the tolerance, and that might affect the limits, those limits we have set. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we'll start with Alicia first to answer the first question, then maybe Jacques or Bill could say something about the second part.
Concerning ion beam radiotherapy is the first question. We have just produced a document. The document is now in the last stage, and we expect that probably in some month will be for public consultation in the website. Then we have produced specific recommendations for that, including aspects concerning the protection of the patients, aspects concerning the protection of the staff. Then I think could be a good opportunity just to be aware that the document will be in the website, just to know what is the content, and just to be able to do some comments to that, to improve the document if it is the case. But we will have a specific recommendation on that probably in the coming 6 months.
Concerning the second part of your question, sir, it is true that the characteristic of the exposure situation is influential with regard to the tolerability of the risk. In the past, the dose limits, the 1 millisievert for the public and the 20 millisievert for the workers, have been developed by ICRP a long time ago, at a time where what was at stake was the protection of workers in nuclear installations, research centers, hospitals, so in a closed environment, and where it was relatively easy to control. And also for the public, what was at stake was basically the releases of installations, where it was also relatively easy to decide how much releases is reasonable and to have a fairly good control of the exposures. By embarking in the system situations where, in fact, the public, the general public, is directly involved, like the radon, norm, exposure, and above all, the question about emergency situations where, in fact, the whole population is concerned. I mean, we can see obviously that the classical dose limit don't work anymore. And there is a need to think about tolerability related to this type of situations. This is already more or less embarked in the system by a scale of dose going up to 100 millisievert, and this is where ICRP is recommending not to go above the range of 100 millisievert, because this is where you can see some deterministic effects, and the risk of stochastic effects becomes significative. So it's not anymore 1, 2, it's 1, 200, but we have to be more precise and to give more clear recommendations about where to put these values, how to use this range of values according to different type of situations. And also it's evolving in time, because you have an emergency exposure, you are in an emergency, it's not a matter of relaxing the limits, it's a fact. There is an emergency and you want to protect people and you want to reduce as low as reasonably achievable exposures. But then after a while, you enter into an existing exposure situation and you want to improve further the situation. And in the very long range, you'd like to put people again in the quietude like I was expressing. So it's also something which is evolving in time. There is nothing like a value which is universal for all situations. Below, it's safe, and above, it's risk. Risk is relative to the situation. But we need to explore that and to find a nice way to explain this, and that it must be understandable by all parties. It's a difficult issue. It's good that you point out this. Thank you.
We have time for one additional question, if there is one. Please, for the last question.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Abdullah Hash from Saudi Arabia. Referring to the recommendation, ICRP published a recommendation of intervention radiology around year 2000. Now it's almost 14 years ago since that time. There is a lot of changes on that, of course, Chris knows that, on that field. And added to it the new I-dose limit, the reduction of it. Do you think there is a time for look at, update, or review of that publication? Thank you so much.
Yes, of course, we are taking care of that, and in fact, we have published the last years, one additional document about the use of fluoroscopy-guided procedures outside the diagnostic radiology. We have published another document this year about radiation protection in cardiology, including interventional cardiology. We expect to address in the coming document about diagnostic reference levels the already recommended in the year, some years ago, the use of diagnostic reference levels in interventional radiology. Probably we will suggest a new name like interventional reference levels. But of course, and we will have, in addition, we are working in another document about occupational protection in interventional radiology. We expect not to address to the medical professionals, more to the radiation protection experts or officers. But of course, we will follow the evolution, and if we need, like probably in radiotherapy, to do some kind of update in some specific document about the evolution of the new technologies in interventional radiology, we will take that into account. And I think it's very good to receive this kind of feedback from you, because this is, I will put this line in our agenda to consider that, because now we are trying some of the specific modalities, but probably could be useful to revisit this document from the year 2000 to take into account the advances and just to take into account also the new proposals for the wide use of diagnostic reference levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the first session of the symposium.